Hello everyone and welcome to my channel YNR Trends. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The night the scandal broke in Genoa City, it didn't come quietly or with sadness. It came with a loud gunshot and a choice that would hurt everyone who heard it. Cain Ashby, already hurting from the slow poisoning of secrets, walked right into Lily Winter's shaking hand like love had learned how to stop a bullet. In that moment, months of lies, late-night excuses, secret looks, and silence that had become heavy in rooms that used to be full of laughter crashed down into one unbearable second. Truth finally came out, and Lily's anger and heartbreak, built from being betrayed, exploded into something dangerous and unstoppable. Meanwhile, Phyllis Summers, the one who started and got caught in the mess, watched the deadly results of her desires unfold before her eyes. It all started with a simple attraction that no one meant to let grow. A glance that lasted too long. A conversation that drifted from friendly to personal. Boundaries faded, vows became obstacles, and the affair, hidden behind locked doors and made-up stories, became too big to hide. When Lily found out, it wasn't just that she was betrayed. She felt humiliated, like her life had been rewritten without her permission. Every smile she once trusted now felt like it had a hidden note. Her anger was cold, cutting, and terrifying, pushing her toward a confrontation she never thought she'd face. Cain, who had told himself that silence was kind, realized too late that keeping secrets is a kind of harm. As the room filled with shouting, accusations mixing with excuses, love turned into blame. Cain saw Lily's pain become something strong, saw Phyllis's confidence break into fear, and understood that whatever happened next would change them forever. When Lily raised the gun, it wasn't exactly revenge. It was about taking back control in a situation where she had no voice. Cain, driven by a love that mixed guilt and devotion, moved without thinking, stepping between Lily and Phyllis out of a simple, crushing truth. He couldn't let the woman he loved become someone she would never forgive herself for being. The gunshot echoed like a judgment. Time seemed to freeze as Cain fell, the sound of his body hitting the floor louder than any scream. His blood spread across the floor like an accusation none could avoid. Lily's world shattered. The weight of her actions crashed on her, stealing her breath. Her hands shook not with anger, but with fear. She knew she couldn't turn back. The man she had loved, fought with, forgiven, and lost her way with lay bleeding because he had loved her enough to sacrifice himself for her worst moment. Phyllis, on the other hand, didn't wait to see what happened next. Survival had always been her strongest instinct. As sirens started to sound in the distance, summoned by anyone desperate to stop the damage, she ran into the night. Her heels echoed like a countdown as she fled from the wreckage of the choices she had made, fully aware of the risks. Her heart pounded with fear and with the painful knowledge that the fallout this time could not be changed, hidden, or ignored. A man lay dead because she had wanted something she couldn't have and had taken it anyway. The next morning, Genoa City would wake up hungry for details, dissecting the scandal like it was a story, turning pain into news and moral outrage into casual conversation. But inside that blood-stained room, the truth was personal and devastating. Lily knelt beside Cain, pressing her hands against his wound as if she could make the damage go away. She whispered apologies and prayers, bargaining with forces she couldn't see. Guilt tore at her from the inside, transforming her anger into a grief that felt like drowning. Cain, between life and death, met her eyes with a softness that broke her completely. He showed her that love could be messy and destructive, yet still real. That forgiveness isn't something you're given. It's a choice, even now. As medics rushed in and lifted him onto a stretcher, Lily followed, her whole life narrowed to the rise and fall of his chest. Behind her, the echoes of the scandal lingered. Phyllis's escape, the broken relationships, the certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. Even if Cain lived, the bullet had already done its job. It tore through the illusion that secrets could be contained, that betrayal could be managed without punishment, and that love could survive being treated carelessly. As Genoa City prepared for the trials, confessions, and reckonings to come, one truth settled over everyone. That night, adultery stopped being a rumor and became a reckoning written in blood. And no one, Lily, Cain, or Phyllis, would ever escape the gravity of that single irreversible moment. After Cain took Lily's bullet, things went crazy like a storm that wouldn't stop, bringing a flood of feelings and results that swept through Genoa City. It felt like the universe was punishing desire. In the cold, quiet hospital, Lily sat still, her hands covered in blood that wasn't all from Kane. Her mind kept playing back every betrayal, every secret kiss, every moment with Phyllis that had led to this. She realized with a deep fear that the line between love and destruction was always thinner than she wanted to believe. Her impulsive choice had shown how weak humans really are, making her both the one who was hurt and the one who caused the harm. Her heart was broken in a way that no tears could fix. Nurses moved quickly around, speaking in short, serious tones, but Lily didn't hear any of it. Every sound passed through her like a fog of guilt, fear and disbelief. She pressed her forehead against Kane's arm, hoping that just being close would fix things. Yet, memories of their laughter, their quiet hopes, and the fragile times they had made up came rushing back, making the moment feel even worse. In that instant, she realized love couldn't protect her from the pain of a broken heart. Meanwhile, Phyllis disappeared into the city's shadows, her escape as wild and untamed as the scandal she had helped start. Her heels hit the pavement with a steady, urgent rhythm, like a clock counting down to judgment. She didn't stop, even though every part of her wanted to slow down, think things through and face what she had done. For her, survival had always been the way to stay safe, and by running away she hoped, maybe naively, that being far away could make her feel less guilty, that being unknown could ease the pain of what she had done, even if just for a little while. Running gave her no real peace because every direction she looked, she saw the faces of people she had wronged. She could picture Kane's hurt look as he fell in front of Lily, and she could still hear Lily's screams ringing in her mind, reminding her that no one can completely escape the harm caused by human mistakes. Her mind quickly went through different situations, excuses and reasons, but each one seemed weaker than the last. The cold, thick night air of the city pressed against her, a sharp contrast to the wild confusion she had left behind. In that darkness, Phyllis faced a truth she had avoided for a long time. Her charm, her smartness, and her talent for controlling things to her advantage couldn't change a single moment of violence. That moment had everything, love and betrayal, clashing together, leaving only pain behind. Back at the hospital, Kane's condition was hanging by a very thin rope between living and dying. Every beep from the monitors reminded her that one heartbeat could change everything. Lily stood there like a ghost, unable to move or speak, overwhelmed by the truth that her actions had almost taken the only person who had kept her grounded through a storm of lies. That one man had been both a gift and a heavy load for her. As doctors and nurses worked quickly and carefully, she felt her legs give way, the guilt crushing her down. But even as she fell, there was a fire in her eyes, a strong resolve not to let this tragedy take control of her life. She had seen the faint, hurting smiles on Kane's face, and in those small moments, she had caught a glimpse of hope, proof that even in the middle of chaos, surviving was still possible. The room turned into a place full of strong feelings, where fear, love, regret, and longing all mixed together as strongly as the beat of a busy city. In that moment, Lily realized a scary truth. Once passion starts, it's hard to control, and the results of wanting something can happen much quicker than even the best laid plans. Outside, news about the shooting spread quickly like fire, turning quiet talk into guesses and guesses into big arguments. People, friends, family, and even those who didn't like them, began to try and understand what happened, using bits of information, rumors, and their own feelings. Each new story they came up with was more intense than the last. The headline said Lily was crazy, Kane was a hero, and Phyllis was the bad guy. This made a complicated mix of emotions and mistakes seem simple and dramatic, but it left out a lot of the real details. Inside the hospital, the truth was much more personal and painful. The real cost of betrayal, love that went wrong, and tough decisions happening right now, needing to be noticed, thought about, and finally changed. As the hours passed slowly, Lily's sadness started to mix with a weak kind of strength. She quietly said sorry to Kane, who was still asleep, telling him the things she had kept hidden, sharing her fears that she had buried deep inside, and admitting her mistakes that she had refused to accept. In that moment of speaking honestly, even though it was hard and shaky, a strange sense of relief came over her. A painful but hopeful feeling that maybe being truthful, even when it hurts, could help heal. Kane, on the other hand, stayed at the edge, only partly aware, clinging to her presence as if it were a lifeline. In those moments it became painfully clear how complex love really is. It can inspire great courage, ask for big sacrifices, and at the same time push people to the edge of breaking. The line between being a hero and being a sinner is thin, blurry, and almost impossible to tell apart. Phyllis was in a cheap motel room on the city's edge. The lights dim and the feeling of the night heavy around her like something real. She poured a drink she didn't really want and looked into the mirror, seeing not a smart woman but someone running from her own decisions, someone involved in a sad story with no heroes, just people who suffered and watched. She realized with a deep fear that running wouldn't make her feel better. It just kept the guilt waiting, and no matter where she went or how much she tried to change, that time would come for her anyway. Her phone kept buzzing with messages she didn't feel like reading, and every time it pinged, it reminded her that the world was paying attention. It showed her that scandals can sneak through even the strongest defenses, and that people who start fires of betrayal usually end up getting burned just as badly as anyone else. In the calm moments between the noise, Lily finally let herself face what she had been scared of most. How fragile the life she had built on love, trust, and kept secrets was, how easily it could break in one big, unchangeable moment, and how the decisions she made when she was angry and upset would affect every relationship she cared about. As she held Kane's hand, feeling the weak beat of his life under her fingers, she realized that forgiveness, both giving and getting it, would be a long and unsure path, one that needed bravery, honesty, and being okay with not being perfect, because the world doesn't stop for sadness, and it doesn't give clear chances to those who make mistakes. By dawn, the city started to wake up, not knowing that a deep fear and strong weakness had happened inside the hospital. But the effects of the scandal were already changing people's lives, changing who they trusted, and showing secrets that had been kept for a long time. Every look people gave each other in public felt like it carried doubt, and every sentence they said was watched closely because of the betrayal. Those involved in this situation, Lily, Kane, Phyllis, and everyone connected to them, were now moving through a world where trust was hard to find, love was risky, and each decision could lead to another big problem. As the sun rose over Genoa city, turning the streets into a soft golden color, the darkness of that night stayed behind, hiding in every corner of people's hearts. It reminded everyone that things like cheating, strong feelings, and lies were powerful forces that couldn't be stopped or forgotten. The price people paid for keeping secrets, whether they were done out of love or without thinking, was just as certain as the sunrise. Lily's sadness, Kane's strength, and Phyllis's worry were all parts of a bigger picture of what was coming next. The story was still unfolding, one part after another, until all the hidden things came out, all the hurt was seen, and every heart, even the ones with old wounds, had to deal with the real truth that couldn't be ignored anymore. Genoa City had barely had time to catch its breath when the second wave of trouble hit, like a silent tsunami made of rumors, looks, and careful moves that left everyone stunned. By mid-morning, the hospital waiting room had turned into a place full of suspicion, anger, and pity. Friends and family were acting like both hunter and hunted, carefully choosing their words, watching how others reacted, and quietly judging each other. In a scandal this intense, it's not innocence that matters, it's how others see you. Lily sat slumped in a chair, her face pale and wet from crying, holding onto Kane's hand like it could keep her grounded in the real world, while Nick and Victoria sat next to her, trying to comfort her, but their words felt too small for how big everything felt. Every sound, the clink of a coffee cup, the scuff of shoes on tile, the quiet talk of nurses, felt louder, like the world itself was shouting about the damage caused by one bullet, one broken trust, or one moment of wild emotion. Meanwhile, Phyllis, who had found temporary shelter in a plain motel, started to realize that running hadn't made her invisible. Every news update, every text message, and every worried phone call reminded her that the scandal was real and that even from afar, it could still hurt her. She couldn't avoid the fact that she was both the one who created the mess and the one who got hurt by it. A truth that kept eating away at her confidence. Her mind kept playing back the argument in Lily's room. She saw the shock and anger in the other person's eyes when they found out that Kane's name wasn't hers anymore. Then came the final blow. Kane walking into danger, choosing to act against reason and survival, which left her feeling empty, angry, and something she didn't like to admit, weak. Every move she had carefully planned suddenly seemed unimportant compared to one big, unstoppable decision. A bullet meant to hurt, injure, or maybe even take a life, but instead it showed how fragile wanting something can be and how bad it feels when people try to control others. Back at the hospital, Kane was stuck between being awake and asleep. His hold was weak but still there, and Lily wouldn't leave his side. She sat in a chair rocking a little and kept saying things like, "I'm so sorry," and "I can't lose you," her words mixing with cries and prayers, a list of worries and fears that only came from how bad things really were. Doctors moved with careful attention to detail, but even they couldn't hide the deep emotion coming from Lily like water soaking through cracks in a stone wall. It was all around, heavy in the air, making it hard to breathe and impossible to ignore. Friends came and went, keeping their faces showing just the right mix of pity and worry, but inside each one was thinking about what it all meant. How friendships might change, which marriages could break down, and which names would be forever linked to shame. Phyllis couldn't stand being inactive in her self-chosen isolation, so she started planning to come back. She understood that facing things was unavoidable, and staying hidden would just push the moment of truth further away. The problem she had wasn't just about deciding whether to confront Lily, but figuring out how to manage the story, to adjust the facts a little so she could keep her reputation intact while making sure she wasn't held fully responsible. The longer she delayed, the more things started to go out of control, spinning out of her control even with her strong ability to manipulate situations. She finally understood with a deep, scary realization that the story of that night wouldn't just be hers. It would belong to Lily, to Kane, to the city, to anyone who saw it or thought about it, and to anyone who used the scandal as a tool to gain power. That night, Lily finally faced Phyllis at her penthouse. Torn between guilt, anger, and a strong need to be held responsible, Lily's confrontation was intense. The energy in the air was electric, almost shaking. Words were thrown like weapons, each accusation sharp and hurtful. Every sentence was carefully chosen to provoke a reaction, reveal hidden truths, and show who was right morally. Phyllis's first thought was to be charming, to avoid the truth, to make it sound better. But Lily's eyes, full of fear and pain, wouldn't let her ignore what was real, and soon the polite act broke down, showing the real strong feelings underneath. "You think this is about you?" Lily screamed, her voice bouncing off the walls of the penthouse, her body trembling with a mix of anger and sadness. "You cost someone his life. You betrayed everything we believed in." Phyllis's responses started off as a defense, really pushing back with anger, mixed in with fear, pride, and refusing to admit the truth. But Lily's serious tone, along with the memory of Kane's close call still in the air, gradually wore down Phyllis's strong stance. For the first time in years she faced something completely different. Not a competitor, not a friend, not a lover, but the direct result of what she had done. The truth hit her like cold water. No amount of cleverness, charm, or ability to survive could fix the harm she had caused, could mend the injury she had given, could pull Kane back from the edge of death, and could erase the terrible, clear look of guilt in Lily's eyes. As their argument got worse, it was clear that the scandal had messed things up big time. Old friends stopped trusting each other, new problems came up, and the feeling of being betrayed grew stronger for everyone involved. No one could really be completely innocent, and no one could know for sure what would happen next, because the things that happened that night set off a chain of decisions, truths coming out, and strong emotions that would keep spreading on and on. Friends turned into judges, lovers turned into enemies, and the city itself felt like it was alive with the excitement of a big drama unfolding, as if Genoa City had been waiting a long time for this scandal to finally show up in all its powerful, harmful way. By the time the argument was over, Phyllis had stepped back, not because she won, but because she knew it was the smart move, leaving Lily alone with a lot of strong feelings and the worry that Kane's situation might suddenly change again. The night felt endless, and the hospital was quiet, with only the steady beeping of machines breaking the silence. But Lily felt every moment drag on forever, each one reminding her of the narrow path between love and destruction, between staying loyal and choosing to betray. In that quiet moment, she finally understood something she hadn't seen before. Life, just like desire, is hard to predict, easy to break, and can be really tough on people. The decisions you make when you're feeling strong emotions can have a big impact, lasting for a long time, and sometimes leave wounds that are even harder to heal than physical ones. These lessons are usually only learned through going through pain and staying strong. As morning came again, the city outside kept going as usual, not knowing about the big personal change that had happened, while inside the characters were forever altered. Lily, tired but still watchful, sat next to Kane, determined to face what came next with honesty, bravery, and whatever forgiveness she was still able to offer. Meanwhile, Phyllis started to realize that each of her next steps would be followed by guilt, doubt, and the clear truth that some outcomes are beyond anyone's control. Cain, even though he was weak, clung to life and to Lily with a calm, steady strength that had always been part of him. It was a quiet promise that no matter the betrayal, pain, or scandal, love could last, stay strong, and maybe one day bring healing. The night of the scandal, the bullet, the betrayals, and the confrontations were done, but their effects had just started, spreading through hearts, homes, and lives, making sure that Genoa City would never have the same people, the same relationships, or the same feelings again. Each character had to decide: give in to shame and fear, or get up from the mess and face the truths that had been shown. In the middle of all the confusion, the violence, and the sadness, one thing was clear. The scandal wasn't over. It had just started its unstoppable changing path. If you'd like, I can write part 4 where more secrets come out, new alliances are made in shocking ways, and the scandal builds up to its biggest, most intense moment, featuring public exposure, blackmail, and powerful emotional confrontations. Do you want me to continue?